Okay, folks, we're going to do drawing number 3 today, which is this block up here in the upper corner. I know it's a little on the small side, so across the length here we have 4 inches. The height here is 2.5 inches. The depth of this notch is, or I guess the length of this notch is 1.5 inches. The height of the notch, if we follow this out, is going to be 1 inch, and that leaves 3/4 at the top and 3/4 at the bottom. If you do the math, 1 plus 3/4 is 1 3/4, and then if you take 2.5 minus 1 3/4, you're going to be left with 3/4. So that's what this bottom piece has to be. And then the depth of this object is 1.5 inches. So we're going to start off by drawing this thing. Because this is a little bit larger of a shape, instead of doing a 1 inch spacing, we're going to actually do a 1/2 inch spacing for this one, just to make sure that it's going to fit on the page. I don't think it would be an issue to do 1 inch spacing, but just to play it safe, we're going to do the 1/2 inch spacing. We'll still do our 1 inch to start to get us our starting point. So let's go ahead and dive right into it. So I've already done my border, so that's done. If you still need help with the border, there's a border video up there for you to check out. First off, we're going to go 1 inch over and 1 inch up. I'm going to try to do this video a little bit faster than the last one. And as we get more and more used to doing these drawings, I'm going to try to pick up the pace a little bit with each one and do a little bit less talking, to the point where I'm not really talking much at all. We got one there, laptop's in the way. So now we've got our crisscross for our starting point. And I'm going to measure across the length first. We always want to start out with those first 4 lines that are going to be our basis for the length, the depth, and the height of our object. And I say 4 because we're actually going to see the depth twice. We're going to see the depth in the top view when we're looking down. We're going to see the depth in the right side view when we're looking at the right side view. And then the length and the height we're going to see in our front view. So that's why we have 4 lines that we have to start with. So this is going to be 4 inches. So I'm going to go to 8. So I'm starting at 12 actually, because my finger's over top of it, but my ruler's upside down and backwards. It's the only way to make this work. So I'm going to go ahead and make my line there from 8 to 12. While I'm here, I'm going to look for any vertical lines that run through the shape, and I have this one here at 1.5 inches from the right side. So I'm going to go to my 8 and go back 1.5 inches. So 9 would be 1 inch, 9.5 would be 1.5 inches. So I'm going to put a little mark there at 9.5. So I'm essentially just measuring backwards, but it's doable. And I said we want to do a 1/2 inch spacing, so I'm going to go to 7.5, or a 1/2 inch away from 8. Put a mark there for my view spacing, and then we're going to do the depth, which is 1.5. So 1/2 would take us to 7. 1.5 would take us all the way to 6. Oops, we moved a little bit there. And I'm going to look for any lines. There's nothing. There's the beginning and there's the end. I've already got those marked here. So there's nothing in the middle of this that's going to run through the object. So I'm done with my right side view. Now we're going to go and do all of our vertical measurements, or height measurements, if you will. Laptop's trying to get in the way over there. So we get everything lined up. And the height's going to be 2.5. So I go to 2.5. Draw my line. I'm going to look across here. Are there any horizontal lines now as I go up the height? And you can see I've got this one here, which is, we already determined 3/4 from the bottom. So that's going to be 3/4 of an inch up. I'm going to put a mark there. And as we move up, this one's just an inch from there because it's 1 inch, right? This opening is 1 inch tall. So from 3/4, we're going to go up to 1 3/4 because that would be another inch. And then to check myself, I'm making sure that I have 3/4 of an inch left before I get up here to the top of my box. So I have 3/4, 1 3/4, 3/4, 1 3/4. We're good to go. Let's skip a 1/2 inch again because my view spacing is a 1/2 inch now. And we're going to do the depth for the top view, and that's 1 1/2, just like it was in our right side view. Here's a little tip for you. Your top view and your right side view, top right side, they are always going to be the same measurement on that line. They may have different increments in between. Actually, I think they'll always be the same. Yeah, I think the increments will always be the same as well. So whatever you did here, you're going to do the same thing here. Okay, so just, that may speed you up a little bit, give you a little bit of a tip. So from that point, we don't need the ruler anymore. We can just use a triangle, make a grid. So I'm just going to work my way across the front view. So this dot is, let's see here, it's this line. So it's not at the bottom, it's not at the top, it's right here in the middle. So I'm going to try to just draw that kind of in the middle. I'm going to go over here. And now if I go up the right side of my front view, I'm at the bottom and I'm at the top, but not in the middle. So I'll put a piece here at the bottom. I'm going to look over here. There's my dots. That tells me where to stop. And this is the gap in the middle, and this is the section at the top. So I need to mimic that over here. So I'm not drawing lines this way yet, but I will eventually. I'm just trying to kind of pretend and eyeball where that line should be. In our right side view, it looks like we would draw a line here and then a line up here, but we're actually going to draw this as well. So it's just going to be one straight line all the way up through there. Same on the other side. And then we can go across and do our horizontal lines. So now this dot is the bottom of that break, and it's actually going to continue over here on our right side as well. Moving up. This is actually a very, very simple shape. It's, by my standards, I would say this is even easier than number 2, being that it is our third drawing. But there is a reason why I do this one second, and I'm going to explain that in just a second. So now we're to our top view, and we're going to make these lines going across here, which I realize now that I goofed. When I was doing these and this, I should have also put my lines up top here. So I'm going to have to take my triangle and go back. So I draw those lines across, and I want to put this in there. Like so, and then this line, this is kind of unique. So if we're looking at the top view, right, we're looking down. Let me move this over a little bit. If we're looking down, this is a solid rectangle. So essentially, it looks like we're done, but we're not. This corner right here, we have to show that, and we show that by doing what's called a hidden line. So this edge, this corner right here, we're going to show in our top view with a hidden line. And a hidden line is basically just a dashed line, like so. And that's pretty much number 3. From there, I would throw your isometric in the corner, which is really easy to do. You don't need to use a triangle or a ruler for this. You can eyeball this and freehand it. The big key thing here with doing isometrics is to keep everything parallel. So anything that's showing me length is parallel to everything showing me length. Anything showing me height is parallel to anything showing me height. Actually, that one was a little short, I think. That one might be a little long. So if you make your lines a little long or a little short, you can always go back and just erase that. Don't feel like you're forced to make those final connections, and throw that guy in there for the back side. And there you have it. You can throw your dimensions on here, but definitely don't forget to do your name, your period, and the date. And that is drawing 3.